Hello everybody, this is Carmichael the Cat, and welcome to your 17th C++ tutorial. In this tutorial, we will be going over polymorphism, which isn't quite as hard as it sounds. But in the last tutorial, we went over pointers, but we never really went over what they're used for, because you were probably thinking, what's the point of creating a pointer to an int, and then having to worry about manually deleting it later, when you could just create a normal int, and then just have it go out of scope and not have to worry about the memory that's being lost, because there is no memory being lost if it's not a pointer. So in this tutorial we're going to go over why you would use pointers. And to do that, we're going to delete everything here, because there's really no reason in most cases to use pointers to the normal types like ints, floats, and doubles, and stuff like that. So if you remember from our classes tutorial and the inheritance tutorials, we have our parent class enemy, and we have our child class special enemy. So we're going to add a third class, and let's just call this, we'll say weak enemy. I don't know, it doesn't matter. Weak enemy. Whoopsies. Nope, that's fine. Alright, so we have a new class. Let's get rid of this. I'll talk about what that is in the next tutorial. We're going to have an easy tutorial next tutorial, because we've had a few hard ones. So it doesn't really matter what we put in this class. Let's just make it slightly different from our special enemy. So we'll copy and void attack. And we need to remember to... we need to include enemy. Include enemy.h. And then we need to make this public enemy. Alright, so now weak enemy is also a child class of enemy. So in our CPP file, let's just copy this over but make it slightly different. So copy this in here, and we'll just say 50 and 5. And then we can also copy in our attack function. And so we need to change this to weak enemy. Weak enemy. And now we can change this to weak enemy. And other than that, it should be fine. Build this. So what we did here is we just quickly created another class that inherits from our enemy class, and we just made it slightly different from our special enemy. So now let's set up an example. So say we're making a game and we want to store all of the enemies that are on the screen at once. So we could just create a separate array or any other kind of storing object for each kind of enemy. So we'd have one for the weak enemy, one for the special enemy, and one for the normal enemy. Or we could use polymorphism. So what polymorphism is it's when you have a pointer to a parent class, and that pointer to the parent class can actually be any of the child classes from that parent class. So you'll get this better when I show you. So we'll say, and actually no, we need to include it. We need to include all those. So enemy, create a pointer to it, and we'll call it enemy1. And we'll set this equal to new special enemy. And semicolon. That'll work, right? And we'll create another pointer. So enemy star, say enemy2, and we'll set this equal to new weak enemy. This will build, right? No. One sec. Alright, I fixed the problem. Just go into the .h file for every class and put $pragma once. Just at the very beginning of the file. Make sure it's at the very beginning, line 1. This is an annoying problem, and I'll get to what it is next tutorial, but for now, just put $pragma once at the top of every file. Not the CPP files, just the .h files. So, now back to this. So, you can see here, we're creating an enemy class, and then we're setting that enemy class to one of the enemy class's child classes, the special enemy, and then we're doing the same thing with the weak enemy. So this is what polymorphism is. We're creating a parent class and then setting it to a child class. So now let's do some things with this. So let's say enemy1, and now we can't say dot anything. We have to use an arrow. So minus sign, a dash, and then a greater than sign. So this is the equivalent of a dot when you're using a pointer to a class. So we'll say enemy1 attack. And now we'll say enemy2 dot attack. And enemy1 take damage. And enemy2 dot take damage. So we can build this. We need a parameter for this. What's the parameter? Oh, damage. So we'll say take 20 damage. We'll make each one take 20 damage. Now it should work. So if we run this, the special enemy did 40 damage, the weak enemy did 5 damage, the enemy now has 180 health, the enemy now has 30 health. I think I just forgot to change the output in the take damage class. But you can see we subtracted the same amount of health from each one, and we get a different number here. So this pretty clearly shows that these parent enemy classes have been set to their child classes, the special enemy and weak enemy, because when we call enemy1.attack, even though it is an enemy class, since it's declared here, it's calling the special enemy's version of attack. And here it's calling the weak enemy's version of attack. And also the health variables are set to the special enemy and weak enemy values. So now what we can do is we can delete, not delegate, delete enemy1 and do the same for enemy2. I forgot to put a space here. And then we can just copy and paste this. Don't worry, we will change something. So we can copy and paste this and switch it around. So weak enemy and special enemy. I can't do that. Oh, I see. Remember that delete doesn't actually delete the pointer itself. It just deletes the area in memory that it gives the area in memory that the pointer is pointing to back to the computer. So we don't have to say enemy star enemy1 again. We just say enemy1. So now if we build this, it should work. And now you get special enemy did 40, weak enemy did 5, enemy now is 180, the enemy now is 30 health, the same output we had from the last run. And then it's switched around, so the weak enemy did 5 damage, special enemy did 40 damage, and the outputs just switched around to show that we've switched enemy 1 from a special enemy to a weak enemy, and enemy 2 from a weak enemy to a special enemy. So this topic may or may not be confusing to you. I remember that I didn't fully understand it until I didn't understand it until I was making the game that I'm making now. So it took me a long time to understand, and it may take you a long time to understand, and that's okay, but this is a very useful topic once you understand it fully. But it is also a hard topic, and we've had a few kind of hard tutorials, so in the next tutorial, we're going to be going over this line and every other line that begins with the number sign. They are called preprocessor commands. You may have noticed include has this. So we'll be going over that next tutorial. It's actually pretty easy. So see you in the next tutorial.